Hey Gage, I just wanted to show you how insane Hunter Munitions is. I know you said you didn't really want to check it out because that power could be taken away from us or whatever, but this mod is too much fun for me to allow you to stay ignorant of it. It's not okay, you gotta check it out. So I have a Ferox here. Base crit is 30%, I increased it to 75, and I rolled this pretty nutty of a Riven here. Almost 200% crit chance fire rate. That raises my base crit to 129.4. I also have Argon Scope from the Acolytes. On a headshot, that takes my base crit, 129, and multiplies it by 1.35, which gives me about 175% crit if I get a headshot. So this base damage here, it's 175% chance for it to be an orange crit. And my crit multiplier is 5.5. Why this is all important is because of how Hunter Munitions works. It's got a 30% chance to apply a slash status to an enemy on a crit. So if your crit is 100% on a weapon, that means you have a 30% chance per shot to actually proc this bleed from Hunter Munition. If your crit is 200%, you have a 60% chance per shot to apply this bleed. With headshots, I'm at 175. So it's around 50 to 45% chance to proc the bleed. And the damage that it's, the number that it's taking to apply that bleed, it is a grand total of all my damage here after crit multiplier. So it's going to take my orange crit damage, and it's going to turn that into a bleed on the target. That's why it's insane. Because it's taking the sum of all your damage after the multiplication of the crit, and turning that damage into a bleed. What this means is that on good procs, you don't need to strip armor. You don't need a high fire rate corrosive build. You don't need viral to cut their health in half. I've got some level 100 bombards here that I'm going to try this out on. And just show you how insane it is. And this works on any weapon. Any weapon that has more than like 20%. So you see I didn't proc it there twice, but the third time I did. He's sticking for 8k damage. Oh man, I have some really bad RNG here. There he goes. There's a proc from the start. Proc from the start. Maybe not. There's one. Bleeding for 15k. This is why everyone's losing their minds over this mod. Because it just gives you a chance to build something other than corrosive. And maybe a level 100 bombard isn't the best example because you're only going to encounter those in sorties. You're not even going to find level 100s in Kupa Floods, right? But the ticking damage on these, it's insane. And like I said, this works on any weapon with crit. And it makes you go back through your primaries and think, okay, what weapon has high crit that I haven't really used much of yet? Another great example that I know that you just grabbed is the Corinth. Shotguns don't have a ton of great crit mods. And for my Corinth build, I'm not using the equivalent of Argon Scope, and I'm not using the other one that increases crit damage. I'm still doing the corrosive, and I just have the primed Ravage and Blunderbuss. Those are my only two crit mods on there. Crit chance is like almost 60%, but because of the fact that that crit is applied to every single pellet on a shotgun, it makes Hunter Munitions awesome on Corinth. And on shotguns in general. You're basically always going to get a proc with shotguns. Even if it's not a great proc like that one, well, you might just have to press that fire button a second time. Like the damage on a level 100 is pretty nice, and their armor isn't even being stripped. I know I have corrosive damage on this, but you can see I'm not stacking that debuff on there. I'm not stripping their armor. This is totally achievable by most people. And since you're gonna forma your Corinth, you can totally do this. I already gave you 100 munitions from the event, so any weapon with crit you can do this with. And here's a final example. There's a new weapon that came out called the Baza. I think I talked to you about this. It's an automatically silenced SMG. The base crit on it is 26%, 2.8 times multiplier. You can see the base damage though is pretty garbage. SMG. Don't have a ribbon for this yet. For this build, I'm using both of the crit modifier things. So Argon Scope for that crit chance raises it to about 80%, and then this one increases my crit damage by 120% whenever I kill someone. If someone dies, 120% more crit. Well, crit multiplier, sorry. I use this just because the base damage is so low on this that anything that's going to help is going to be good for those procs. With Slash, not Slash, Shred, for that punch through and fire rate, this thing becomes pretty dangerous. So that's just one shot, like one firing of the clip. Took out 2 bombards. Here's another one. Is that insane or what? You could take weapons with relatively, bad base stats. Weapons that, if they did not have high status, they just wouldn't be viable, right? Because they have a bit of crit, in this case, quite a bit of crit, 26%. But if your weapon has a bit of crit, you can slap munitions on there, increase that base crit chance, and you're good. You're great, actually. I can't believe the Ferox is like 2-shotting or 1-shotting enemies on good procs. That's the only thing. If I could raise the crit chance even more, it'd be better. Last example here. Prisma Gracata. It's a weapon with great status and great crit. So even if I'm getting bad procs from munitions, and the base damage again is pretty bad on this weapon, I'm still shredding a bit of armor with the corrosive build, although I don't think it's really necessary. Just because the fire rate on this is so insane. Yeah, not the best. I don't use those crit modifier mods on this because I can't even aim with it. It's not reasonable to be dodging bombard shots trying to aim with the Gracata. But Hunter Munitions is still tons of fun. Did you see those 1,000 crit bleed headshots? Pretty ridiculous. You should give Hunter Munitions a shot. I really think you should. Hopefully we'll hear more about their proposed changes for damage 2.5. I really hope they don't nerf Slash as heavily as they insinuate they are. They got a ton of feedback though over the winter break, so we'll see what Scott and Steve think. But if that doesn't convince you to check out Hunter Munitions, I don't know what will. I hope we see more mods like that. Not that one-shot enemies or make things super duper trivial against high levels. I'm okay with this coming down a bit in damage. But I like mods that I can slap onto a weapon. Or mods that I can just get, I should say, like in my inventory, and then I immediately look through all my weapons and think, oh man, a ton more of these are viable. I can use this, I can use this, I can use this. I didn't even show you what it does on the lens, but the lens has a base crit of 50%! Flash procs off of lens damage. What's my base lens build here? My god, it's almost 9,000 damage. It's probably almost 10,000 damage. Base damage! Those bleeds are gonna be insane! This is why you gotta try it. Any weapon with good base crit, even with okay base crit, is made an exceptional weapon with Hunter Munitions. So give it a shot!